Okay, Indiantown, it's Tony Z. We're here with the Martin County Fire Rescue Administrative team, and we're here for a quick question and answer segment to get some truth behind what's going on in Indiantown. So, uh, Chief Chinchula, if you would please go ahead.
All right. Thank
Chuli.
you. Appreciate the introduction.
Chief Chinchuli.
It's okay. I get it every day. So, just to go off the letter, and you start with the hazmat response, and that's the problem. A lot of this is plagued with misinformation, and we're afraid the community is going to react to information that they're receiving. It's not accurate.
And I think also it's in the wording, because I'm sure that it talks here of training. There is
Yes.
a level of training that our personnel, if we bring in personnel, will have.
Yes.
But is that basic, and what about equipment to back that up? I think there's a whole other level to that. Can you speak to that?
So the hazmat, so what we have first, we are not a statewide response team. Now, years ago, we were a statewide response team. There was funding associated with it, but with that, there were regulations attached to it that we'd have so many that were staffed on duty, that they were able to go to a regional response, and I think it was X amount of hours you had to respond to within the region of the state. We moved away from that because it just wasn't cost effective for us to stay with a program like that because the funding wasn't enough. However, so what we do is we just focus just on Martin County itself. Now, we will provide a mutual aid if requested, and that's a fee-based service, with other entities, or if they're reciprocating the same type of, operation, then, that's something that can be worked out. But as far as the hazmat training, our people are trained at what we call a technician level. So you have an awareness is the very beginning level. It just means when you roll up on something that's hazardous materials related, it's just that you identify it. This is bad, but it's already out of your scope. You need more help. Operations.
And what level is that called?
That's an awareness level. Just
So
to
it's not
recognize
even
that and see it.
operations level.
No, ma'am.
It's just awareness
Just
level.
awareness.
Okay.
Now, operations level, which is the next level, which is more training to get to that point, is you can actually get there to the call. You can probably mitigate the very beginning of the call, but you can't follow through the entirety of the call. You still need assistance to make any kind of, if it's confined space or any kind of entry, you need to be at what the next level is a technician level. So all of this takes continuing education to even maintain, from the awareness to the operations, especially the technical side. Our people in Martin County are at the technician level, which means whatever incident happens here, we're capable of handling it within our own agency. But that is not a statewide response. That is just for Martin County.
Okay, so if we enter, so let's talk, you spoke briefly on the mutual aid.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there is a local mutual aid agreement that we can get into, compared to what you said, that state mutual aid program, which your hazmat team is not a part of.
Correct.
Can you give me the difference between those two levels,
So,
or what those two different things are?
Yeah, there's a huge difference between what we call mutual aid and automatic aid, and I think a lot of times in these FAQs, they're referring to mutual aid, and I think what they're really looking for is automatic aid. So like, for instance, the agreement we have with the City of Stewart, it's automatic aid. It's a little bit of a play on words because the response is reciprocal, but it's automatic, meaning when the call comes into dispatch, dispatch is immediately making a decision about who is the closest unit available, and it's seamless. Whereas mutual aid requires an actual request, so an additional phone call, not from dispatch to if for a statewide response, it's to the state, and the state dispatches it out to all the surrounding agencies to see what apparatus, equipment, personnel are available, then the response happens. So there's a huge delay in the response time. But with that, and with both programs, there are fees associated with it. There's a misnomer that even on the statewide mutual aid agreement, it's free. It's far from free. And the whole purpose of the statewide mutual aid agreement was for large-scale incidents, whether it be disaster response after a hurricane or a large-scale wildfire, there can be lengthy response times or response durations. that was the intent, but you're still, the requesting agency is still on the hook for payment. And those payments are gonna be substantial because depending on the scope of the event, it could be days, weeks, even months if it's after a hurricane, where you have responding agencies helping you out. So it's not designed for your day-to-day operation. So, there's a question in there talking about if you have both your ambulances are out on calls, another call comes in, what happens? That should be automatic aid, so it doesn't delay the response. But he's referring to mutual aid. So now you're gonna put the person's life at risk because you're gonna have to wait for either Martin County or if it's gonna be St. Lucie County or whoever you're gonna call to respond to that emergency. And then there's gonna be a fee associated with that. So if you wanna engage and maintain the level of service that you have, and the only way to maintain the level of service you have with a volunteer hybrid system would be you need to have an automatic aid agreement with the county, and you're gonna pay a significant amount of money for that.
That would be fee-based.
That's feedback.
Absolutely.
Fee-based, okay.
And that's the only way you'd be able to maintain your ISO rating, because you don't have assembly, you don't have the apparatus, you don't have the backup that you need to maintain that rating.
And we're gonna go into more of the
Sorry,
particulars
Colin.
about that, yeah, just to kind of, because
We'll go into more.
it's a lot, it's really a lot to go through, but, so that's the hazmat, so is there any more questions on that? Because I'll move on.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to make sure that I understand. It says here on page 5 of this frequently asked questions under the hazmat response, it says that the Martin County Regional Hazardous Materials Team is part of the statewide mutual aid program.
Yeah, again, he's referencing the statewide mutual aid agreement that all agencies
Right.
participate in, so that in the event you have a large scale emergency, whether it be hazmat or
Right.
anything, you can request for help.
But this is when you say large scale, I don't know if you remember years ago, like the diesel fire, I mean, large scale.
Right.
We're not talking about just a single tanker that's in the village of Indiantown, which still needs to be mitigated. But it's not at the level that we're talking about with the statewide mutual aid response. So you have to have the ability to do something, or you're gonna sit on scene because you don't have the ability, and you're gonna wait for someone to come to you to help mitigate it, which is gonna be at least, if you're talking a hazmat, if it's coming from us, drive time from where it's located in our county going to the village, if there's nothing preemptive, you're talking at best 40-45 minutes. Palm Beach County wouldn't be much different, and Okeechobee, I'm not even sure if they even have anything.
So you have different categories, like you say, you could have just a small spill compared to a major incident, say at FPNL or the industrial sites that we have out there. Okay, so there's a big difference in response and apparently also cost of that.
Yes.
Because that would be up and above, even state mutual aid, once again, even state mutual aid comes at a price.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
It's not just when we call the state, everybody responds, and because we called the state called you in, it's for free.
Right.
Right, and a lot of.
That's not the way it happens.
Right, and
Okay.
like I was saying before, with the statewide mutual aid agreement for large-scale events, the anticipation is that it's gonna become a declared event, and that you're gonna be eligible for reimbursement. So they're like, bring everybody, we're gonna get reimbursed, bring, whatever you got to help us out. It's not for your run-of-the-mill type daily stuff, so.
Okay, thank you. And just kind of to further needle that point out, when you're hoping to get reimbursed, if it's through FEMA, we know Hurricane Experience, they send it to the state, and the state can be years in
Years.
releasing that money to you.
Yes.
So it's not like an immediate, okay, send us the bill, here you go.
Correct.
Right, so your agency is responsible to pay the other agencies, then you request for the whole lot. So you have to have
And it's-
emergency funds or whatever, fund balance, contingencies to foot that cost, because we're not gonna wait for it. We're not the ones gonna be petitioning FEMA or whatever. So-
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're moving on to private EMS. So they said you hire your own fire department, right, your own firefighters, and then you, for your EMS transport, you're gonna have your own private EMS company.
We'll contract that out, yes.
So I wanted you and I had a conversation on the phone about, you already identified there's only 2 people, we call the ambulance a rescue truck. So if you hear me say rescue, that's what I'm referring to. You've already identified there's 2 individuals, the way that it's proposed, that you will have on that rescue truck. And you said that if there was an event where, let's say it was a cardiac event, or it took like all hands on deck, who's driving the truck? Well, you have one in the back, CPR's happening, they can't do everything on their own, you know, do CPR, take care of it with the airway and administer medication, while the partner is driving, right? So it takes a group of people to make that happen in an efficient manner, because everything has a timetable associated with it. So what we're gonna share, just because I think it's better with an illustration to understand what we mean by quality of training, we have a video. This video comes from a program that we had in the county. It's called the CARES program. And it shows all different aspects of the county, one aspect obviously being different components of fire rescue. So in this video, what we play is, you'll see, and it's gonna be a role play, and you'll see somebody that's on scene, an individual that needs help, and they actually call dispatch, and then they go through the whole process, and then you'll see a crew actually engage the bystander, and then actually start performing functions on the patient itself. So this is gonna showcase the level of training that we have in an agency here in Martin County. Private ambulance companies, and I don't mean to be derogatory towards anybody, however, usually people like this, it's one of 2 things. One, either they've been working for years, they're retired, they need other income, they may go, they're kind of burned out, right? 2 is they never worked in any agency at all. They're trying to get some resume building, so they go here with very minimal experience. Or 3, they can't get picked up by anybody because of the quality of who they are, but they will always get picked up by a private EMS. So that's the level of people that you're talking about. Now, there will be some outliers that some people just love private EMS. So I'm not saying all of them, but the majority will fit in one of those 3 categories. So we'll start the video and then we can kind of go from
Before
there.
we start the video, can I say something? And just to piggyback what Chief was saying, in the state of Florida, there's a huge shortage of qualified paramedics, and we're all competing for the same lot of, you know, young talent. You know, Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade, ourselves, and it's all, you know, obviously they're going to want to go to the best agencies with the best contracts, best benefits, etc. So typically, like he was saying, you're not going to get the best of the best going to a situation where they're just a paramedic. They want to go to where they're going to be paid well and compensated with benefits, etc. Before we start this video too, I think it's important to note that the impetus behind creating this scenario was that we always get the question of, you know, why does a fire truck always arrive on scene with an ambulance, or, you know, etc. So we created this scenario to show it's not about the fire truck, it's about the personnel on scene and why you need so many personnel on scene to properly mitigate a situation. And again, to point out too, this is in a controlled environment in the middle of a classroom, when typically it's, you know, somebody's wedged